Like the artist crisis, you make a thing and then you're looking at it. Um, in retrospect, like part of it was also that thing where you finish the, let's say, the second draft of a book, and then having gone through it all, you realize I need to now do the third draft or the final draft. And after having spent such a long time working on it, and also having layout and having art, there's this sense of, but it should be done. It looks done. Why does it not feel done? Like, to me, it looks done. There are people who enjoy the system very much, for whom it is done. Why does it not feel done for me? So yes, existential. That whole thing, like artist walking on the moors, it's autumn, the leaves are turning brown and everything.
Hi, welcome to the Daiku Podcast. I am Gary Snow. Today I welcome back Luka Rejec, the writer, illustrator, and designer of Ultraviolet Grasslands in the Black City, which provides a unique setting which is inspired by the psychedelic heavy metal, the Dying Earth genre, and Oregon Trail. Luka is joining us to share details on the second edition of the game, which is being released through Exalted Funeral and sure to be a big hit. Luka, welcome. Or welcome back.
Yes, hi. Nice to be back, Gary. How's it going?
Good. Well, I am super excited. Obviously, I am a fan of the original first edition UVG, as many people are. And we talked extensively about it on your first visit and your history and your background, which I'll put up in the links above. So if people missed that interview, they can.
That side.
I'm not too sure which side. But if they missed it, they can go check that out for some of your background. But here we are here to talk about the second edition, which is like super exciting. So like, tell us, how did that come to be, the whole second edition part of it?
Well, do you want the romantic story or do you want the very simple one?
Let's go with the romantic. I want to be wowed.
Okay. Great. Well, so one of the things with publishing is that there's constraints. Like there's constraints with design, there's constraints with publishing. So you're limited in what you can really do. So when we put out the first edition, we were limited by page count, by finances. We were launching it with Kickstarter, so we didn't know, was this going to work, wasn't this going to work? So we set a certain target that was achievable. We set certain goals. Like I think we aimed for $15,000. We ended up blasting through that, but still the initial setup was that this is going to be a book. This is going to be like 192 pages of content. We're not going to go overboard. We still did, because like one of the stretch goals was, I said, I'm going to color all the art. that took forever. It was like it was genuinely harder than I expected, and then it overlapped also with life things. So this time, because we had the chance to put out a new hardcover edition, since we essentially sold out, and because we knew that we have the next book nearly written, and we thought we can tie it in. And then we actually ended up getting a very, very good offer from the printer, where essentially for the same price that we were making like 190 pages, we could do more. We could do hardcover, we could do 250 pages. And it was just a great opportunity that we had wanted to take advantage of, to really like showcase the art, give it the space it needed. There were a few parts that ended up on the cutting room floor, so to speak, from the original. Like there's one large section of three locations of the Three Sticks Lake and the Cold Lake region, which is like this remote mini civilization in one corner. And it has its own map that I'd drawn. But in that initial version, it ended up getting cut. So now it's back. So there's like a few more maps come back. But mostly there's just more space, so that instead of me taking art pieces, which were originally like half a page, and then cramping them down to fit in a little column or a little spot art, they can breathe. They've got more space there. So this was sort of like a lovely way it came together, this opportunity to make it just look and feel a little bit more like what I imagined it before, before the real world intervened, and it was like, yeah, you don't have more pages, you don't have more space to show this.
When were you tempted? Like, I don't know, maybe the business side of the decision making. Were you tempted to try to do another Kickstarter, or was it just always like, no, we're going to go right to
No, this
selling?
one we were from the beginning. We were going to just do this because the very pragmatic, not the less romantic part as well is we sold out of UVG, and just very practically there was this opportunity where it was like, well, we can do another hardcover. Okay, do we just do the same thing? Do we just put different art on the cover and that's it? And then we discussed how that would also fit in, like I said, with the next book, which we're going to talk about later, I guess. So there it was just this very pragmatic decision that, okay, we want it to be available again. In the end, it took a little bit longer than planned because there is more art. it is bigger. The map got redone, so there's a reissue of the map. The book now has like end papers, so there are tables on the end papers, so you can reference a lot of the stuff just by cracking open the book, so you don't have to like leaf through all of it. There's a new yep, there we go. There's a new
good time to pop on a little bit
exactly.
of the.
Let's answer it slowly
Okay.
with pictures. There we go. There's a new GM screen so that it highlights how well it helps the GM run it. It does what a GM screen does. I think it's a better layout than the initial one because I've learned quite a few things in the last few years. And then like it says, there's new cover art, so that's what's up there right now.
And expanded pages, so you're going up to 250 instead of the 200. Yeah. So bigger art, more art.
Yeah.
What percentage would you say is like either new to the book versus what was in there before? Because I mean, there's, as I mentioned, big fan and so much good art in here.
So I would like roughly say there's maybe 10-20% new art. So some of it is sketches and black and white drawings from the initial designs, things that ended up on the cutting room floor. Like we said, others is drawings that I ended up doing later, which also fit with different locations and stuff. So we added them in, and some of it was just made to fit the new expanded edition.
And I didn't mean to speed us along here, but I guess one of the big things is that you've taken the rules for the mechanics, so to speak, and you've kind of streamlined it out of the second edition.
Almost completely out, yeah. So the character rules are in the first edition. I tried to do this, in retrospect, a little bit overambitious thing where I took a system which I called CCAT, and I presented it through the book. So as you read through it, as you go through locations, when you come to different location, it would present the system. And then I tried to summarize it again at the end. And this was quite confusing for a few people. And it also took away space from more content that could have been useful for the setting. So we made the decision, and I partly made the decision after having written a very expanded version of CCAT, to make a very streamlined version in this book. Because is this a good time to make a little digression into?
Sure. Digress away.
Okay. So the thing that happened was my goal for the next book to complement the UVG was, it changed names variously. At one point I was developing it under the name of CCAT, which is just the name of the system. There I was inspired by Fallout, honestly, which has the special system. So it just has like little name. Although my naming was not as fortuitous as special, I confess. Then I renamed it Uranium Butterflies. And one of the things I struggled with that book was because it wasn't so coherently focused on a single theme. So UVG has this strength in my mind that it's focused on a long, strange trip. Like, you can summarize what it's about in a single sentence. Whereas with CCAT/Uranium Butterflies, I wasn't quite able to summarize that. and then also the pandemic intervened. So my in-person gaming group, and my preferred mode of gaming is in person at a table where there's the whole social interaction and the feeling and just gathering with friends. I didn't have that, and so I didn't have that calibration where I could take the thing I was making, test it out, and then very quickly see, oh, this is a fun idea, this is a fun mechanic, but it's too complicated, so it has to go out. And CCAT grew and grew. And then at some point last year, I have this realization that, like, it was finished. It was 320 pages. It was done. Like, it's got like over 400 pieces of art, everything. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, yeah, but this is too crunchy. This isn't the game system I like to play. And it's like, oh God, this is so painful. I spent 2 years writing this thing up, where the background, the stories, a lot of it was actually very compelling and that I enjoyed very much. But then I'd overlayered it with too much stuff, and it was like, oh God, this is no. And so I had a crisis, because, like, what am I going to do with this? Do I release this like as is? When like, do I go, because the goal was to go to Kickstarter with that, but I wouldn't take that and run with it. So so I had a big crisis. This was like a couple of months. I mean, I was doing other stuff, other projects and working and so on, but I was struggling with what to do with this. So the UVG, the second edition, came in very fortuitously at this time, where it was like this different project where I ended up revisiting the previous work. And I saw that, oh, okay, the core is here. I can streamline towards this, because this is much closer to what I'm aiming for. And there's also an incident where I actually went to, like, visit a Buddhist monk. Yes, like, I have this problem. I made this big thing. And the guy was just like, well, just like, release it as is to the people who want it as is, and your own stuff, just use like 60% of it. It's okay. Like, move on. So it was like, so it was very liberating, where it was like, oh, right. So
well, it's funny. I was actually going to ask you what kind of process. Like, it sounds like a bit of a like existential crisis of, like, you put a lot of blood.
It's like the artistic crisis,
Yeah.
like the artist crisis. You make a thing and then you're looking at it. In retrospect, like, part of it was also that thing where you finish let's say the second draft of a book, and then, having gone through it all, you realize, I need to now do the third draft, or the final draft. And after having spent such a long time working on it, and also having layout and having art, there's this sense of, but it should be done. It looks done. Why does it not feel done? Like, to me, it looks done. There are people who enjoy the system very much, for whom it is done. Why does it not feel done for me? So yes, existential. That whole thing, like, artist walking on the moors. It's autumn. The leaves are turning brown and everything.
And so you went. Did you have any other, like, confidants that you, like, were struggling through this with and asking advice and opinions on?
I mean, yeah, of course, and talking it over, and I also went over it in some details with Skirples from Coins and Scrolls, because to my mind, he has one of the most interesting minds in game design these days. Very, very different goals and preferred modes of play for me, but very useful. And in terms of the kind of feedback Skirples can give, it's very, very on point, and very focused on making a thing. So this was actually very useful. And the other thing that was really useful was sort of starting a physical game group again, which came in at the time. So I essentially went through the whole rules. So as I started working on setting up the second edition of UVG, one of the things that we also did, like we mentioned, we said the streamlining. The other thing was rearranging some of the rules. So the UVG, one of the core mechanical modules are the travel mechanics and the caravan mechanics, which essentially give you a way to make a mobile home base for your PCs, for your characters, as they travel through this place. Um, so that part, also I worked a little bit I worked with Skirples to get some editorial feedback, which was quite invaluable in restructuring it and refocusing it. And in doing that, focusing on the caravan mechanics, focusing on the setting, which was mostly excellent, I think, in UVG. It fit my my imagined ideal of what I wanted it to do. So I got the caravan mechanics much closer. And during that time, I actually went through all the player-facing mechanics, all the core mechanics. I went through all of them in my head while walking my dogs. These really long autumn walks with my dog. And I would just be going through the mechanic in my head,
Yeah.
turning it around, figuring it out, and then writing it down when I got home. So that's actually where the one-page streamlined rules came from, which are streamlined from something very close to another little work, the little zine, the Synthetic Dream Machine, the Eternal Return Key, which I think you've got lined up for us to talk
Yeah.
a bit later. So essentially,
I'll pop it on there just so we can talk.
Yeah,
to
great. Yeah. So the Eternal Return Key was that streamlined distillation, and one of the things I even took on board in terms of like the mechanics was, okay, if I have a mechanical system that I don't remember, it's too complicated or not important enough, so I'm leaving it out. So the Eternal Return Key ended up with essentially being like very close to the perfect distillation of what I wanted from the rules. And it's like, it's a weird feeling because the rules take up about 16 pages of Eternal Return Key, where you end up taking a 320-page RPG book and distilling it down to 16 pages. And the part of it that's really, in terms of rules required for the UVG, takes up 1 page. So I feel quite proud that I wrote 320 pages and then I edited it down to 1 page.
And then, correct me if I'm wrong here. I read in some of the materials that, and you also open that up because of the way you've structured it. Like if somebody has a preferred mechanic that they're used to dealing with or running with, especially like OSR and I guess FKR kind of mentality of how to play games, or sensibilities, at least how to play games, that they could use that because the setting and your caravan mechanics provide the rest.
Yeah, exactly. That was a big design goal for the UVG2, to essentially make it clearer and easier that you can take this, you can use this. Yeah. Now, I wouldn't say it's completely open. Like there are terms, like the stats I talk about. But honestly, if the game has an aura stat, it's trivial to say, oh yeah, that uses wisdom.
Yeah.
Or we're using FKR aura. Okay, it's going to be some kind of mental togetherness. So how together is your character, and then you judge from that.
And then I'm probably skipping all around here, but anyways, so the lexicon also, I think you've committed to kind of providing this as like a free.
Yeah, this is free. I have to put it up once it's ready enough. I think now it's close to ready enough. So so the UVG, already the first one, had like this glossary of weird stuff that is alluded to or mentioned, or sometimes also as a reference. And with the lexicon, I'm expanding it with stuff from all the other things I've written. So it's just becoming this anti-canon compendium, and even like some stories and fairy tales thrown in.
Well, okay, so let's get back now. Let's go back to your the new. So we've got so we talked about, now we've got the character, the mechanics kind of outside the setting.
Yeah.
And so you got now Caravan Rules, and that's, I mean, at the heart of the game, or the I guess the setting now, more or less, is the caravanning. And for those that aren't familiar and aren't going to watch maybe the original interview, just give us the rundown of like what life is like in Ultraviolet Grasslands.
Well, I mean, I think it's pretty cozy, It's nice. No, but it's the basic rundown of it is you've got the civilized lands, which are around this circular sea, which is called the Circle C, or quote unquote civilized lands. The idea is more or less this is where the characters are coming from as humans, for whatever your definition of human is, and they're traveling as merchants or explorers or adventurers or on some kind of mission out into this utter west, which becomes progressively weirder the further you go. And it's designed as a very long-range point crawl, which means you have the various destinations, which are detailed. So there's 32 different destinations. Each one is detailed with some events that can happen there, some creatures they can encounter, and then usually there's some specific locations they can also find by spending more time there. But the core of it is how to travel is with this caravan mechanic, which uses time as the main variable. So instead of measuring how far away something is, for example, in miles or leagues, hexes, you're measuring it in how many weeks away it is. And the mechanic essentially loops around. So every week something happens, every week something happens. Resources get depleted, random events occur, players find new things. And it's then structured so that if you're bolting the setting onto a different OSR system that uses experience points, and so long as those experience points are roughly compatible with some kind of old school D&D where you need about 1,000 XP to get to second level and then a few more, you also gain experience points by just discovering new places. You go to a place, it's worth some XP. You spend some time there, meet some people, become a regular in a local bar, you gain more XP. So it sort of encourages just this wandering around, traveling.
And then I guess one of the questions about like the map itself, are you selling that as like a hard copy folding map through Exalted Funeral?
Yeah.
And how many, is it 4 panels now?
It's now 6 panels.
6 panels.
I've expanded the map. We ran into a problem with the map. So, like we keep going into like printing and problems of printing. Okay, so every single thing, like.
Okay, let's talk about this.
No, it's fine. It's like I wanted it to be 5 feet long. The printer could not do a 5 foot long map. The printer could only do up to 1 meter. That's about 3 feet and change. So the printer was like, well, we can do like 2 feet and 3 feet, And then I was like, no, that's terrible. So I expanded the map and added like more territory. So I added the entire map of the Rainbow Lands, the Civilized Lands, and the other part. So the hard copy map essentially presents all the terrain that's in the Ultraviolet Grasslands, but it also teases the terrain for the next book. Because this also then ties into, that whole existential crisis and what am I doing? How am I going to make this work? Because one of the things I figured out was, I have to simplify this, because the point of it, all the elaboration, the different sort of character backgrounds and traits and equipment that I was writing about in this book that went through multiple name changes and is now going around under the name of Our Golden Age, was about the civilized land, the Rainbow Lands. This relatively weird place, which is missing a lot of its history because of something they're not sure what, either the Great Mist or the Great Forgetting. They're not sure. There's basically a discontinuity in their past. So this is designed partly also to make it very simple for the game master, where it's like, you don't need to know this very elaborate history. Nobody really knows it. They have different theories. Are they right? Are they wrong? You don't have to judge. I'm not going to judge. Your players can make it up right. But so this area got mapped out, and part of the territory also to the east of it. So at a few places I mentioned, like the Golden Desert and the places beyond. So the map is now also, besides being open at present, it's also a little bit of a teaser for the next book.
And for those that have not seen the map and have not actually been able to look through the book, and it's really incredible, like the settings. Like, I mean, it's like a skeleton, like almost with different locations that you can visit. And each one of these locations from my perspective, is just so unique and so interesting, and it sparks such curiosity in you that you go, I just want to go there and explore it. And there's so many settings, or not settings, but locations in this land that you basically caravan through the entire Ultraviolet Grasslands. And I imagine you could run years of a campaign.
Yeah, I think some people have at this point. Some people have, and the whole idea of the map was it's very it leaves a lot of empty space, because the idea is that you have this printed map that the players and the GM then draw on. Like as you travel there, you draw where you've gone. So the destinations, the fixed points, the chapters basically are drawn out and labeled. But the various locations that you can discover, which is called discoveries, are not actually on the map yet, because the idea there is that if you find them, then you draw them onto the map, and now you have a unique Ultraviolet Grasslands that is just yours. It's different from other people's.
And it's just enough to tease you and keep you going, but it's not enough that it pigeonholes you, and you can have your own experience, and it'll be unique to your playing group.
Yeah, I hope so.
And then with the caravan, you boosted more vehicles, more mounts, more options.
Yes, this is one of the things that really expands it. So I expanded more options for essentially the equipment you need for travel. So because I'd been a little bit constrained in the first edition, this was reduced. Like there was like a page, a table, and so on. So here I actually partly worked with Scribbles, because he'd done something he called Ultraviolet Grasslands, where he elaborated this little system for vehicles and how to upgrade them and so on. And he generously agreed that I could build on it on his blog posts and ideas. So that was sort of the core of it, and then I used it to expand on the existing vehicles that were there and added some new ones. And this was also one of the places where some of the new art got made, because this is about 10 pages, 15 pages, which are completely new. And so there's also, I think one, I didn't share it in the marketing stuff. There's a pretty gruesome one where if you're traveling with necromancers, you just weld together a lot of dead creatures, and then they're carrying stuff for you. And it carries a lot of stuff, but it's very slow and very smelly. So most places you visit, they're not going to let you drive it into town.
And you've got more implants, biomagical corruptions.
Yeah. So this is, again, all to do with the experience of the Ultraviolet Grasslands, like to have more of the equipment. And one of the themes that comes up a lot, like the implants, is you have these creatures called foams, which are cases where implants and magical technology goes wrong, and they've got software bugs, and those then manifest as hardware bugs, and things go wrong. But I didn't have like a table of specifically the kinds of implants you could get and imagine. So I added that. Then I added some more ways, specific ways that like magic can go wrong. And I also, like I said, rest and relaxation, because part of travel is you're going to stop at places. You're going to stop at inns, houses, and so on. So I added random tables that let you quickly generate a place where the players can stop, and then also things they can do, like services they can buy, ways they can relax, essentially. Spend money, get a small bonus. Then, yeah. The best
And then, along with all those other additions, you have a new bestiary with more things that you can encounter.
Yeah. So here, I used again. This is it works on the style from Skirple's reimagined monster manual, where Skirples took. So this was actually quite a successful Kickstarter recently, like late last year, I think, and it's a really good monster manual in that it takes classic monsters and then presents them in a relatively system neutral way, giving different features and traits on how you encounter them and what they do. So I really like that style, although I simplified it and used a little bit of the sort of anti-canon mode of the Ultraviolet Grasslands to expand on the factions and also add other creatures. So like it's listed there. We've got more
and more spells.
Yeah,
everything. It's like it's more everything.
more everything. Well, less rules.
Less rules and more everything
Less
else.
rules. Less rules, more other stuff. Yeah. So there's more spells. Some of them are revised. Pets. I added pets. This is one of my favorite tables. This was actually a table that I'd already written up roughly. Like, what are we now? 2023? So 3 years ago. About 3 years ago, I had this table written down because I was writing the streamlined rules, the things that became the synthetic dream machine. And then this is like a table that in the course of overwriting and over elaborating became like 20 pages. Or 50 pages, where I went back to it. I compared it again with the original table. It is heartbreaking taking so much work and so much writing and then condensing it again.
Yeah.
But at the same time, now that the heartbreak is a little bit further back in the past, when I look at the end result, it's like this is good. It's better. It's better than the original table was, and it's better than the very elaborated write-up was, because it's a distillation. So it comes across very concrete. And already in the first UVG, I mentioned pets, that it's like a thing players can have and so on. And now here they are.
You have probably been like the challenge of taking all your babies and all the work that you did and the time. You probably know more than anybody else the time that goes into making 20 pages and then to boiling it down to like 1 or 2 pages. It's a lot of people, a lot of artists or creators cannot do that. It's just
it is painful. It hurt a lot more than I expected. It was not fun.
Did you, like, when you do that, is there ever a temptation to revisit what's left on the cutting room floor and like bring it back later on? Or
yes, there is. There is regularly, but then I always run into the problem, because I come up on something on the cutting room floor and I'm like, oh, this is cool, and then it's like, oh, but this one is actually really excellent, and then that triggers other ideas and it fits with that, and all of a sudden, taking all of them and bringing them back, I just look at them like, but I don't have time. But yeah, there is. Yeah. So and I don't think I'm going to leave them all on the cutting room floor. Like they will get reused in some way. Most of them, half of them. But yeah.
And then I was just like, we can quickly go through. So you've got a new also character and caravan cargo sheets. It's new.
Yeah.
Added in to provide a support for the caravan.
Yeah. So the cargo sheets especially are. I've expanded them a little bit and made it a little bit easier. So it just provides some mechanical support.
And we already discussed the expanded map, and it's just like a fun thing. Like I really look forward to getting it on my wall here and just hanging it down. And
yeah, although it is in 2 parts. So because of the full constraints, it's now 2 parts of 6 feet each.
Oh, so you caved
3 feet each, 2 parts of 3 feet each.
So you did cave to that. I wasn't too sure when you mentioned.
No. It's no, except it's now 1.8. What is it? 6 feet long. The map is now 6 feet long. So I feel pretty proud of that. The map is longer than I am tall. Mm-hmm.
And then you also have maps that you created in the first edition that were on the cutting room floor of that edition due to the size that you've been able to add. And I really like this one, by the way. It was just kind of has that nice feel to it.
Yeah, this one is really, really fun. And like this area is sort of the kind of area of the UVG where if I wanted to take some of my other stuff, like Long Winter or Witchburner, I'd throw it in there. Like, there you go. This works. This is fine.
Cool. And then, as you said, it's a hardcover, stitch binding, I imagine, and it's going to be available through Exalted Funeral. Have you guys got a price on that yet?
I think we do, but now I'm just going to be like the complete.
Yeah, well, we don't.
Artist here, I don't remember.
We don't want to paint you in a corner, so we'll just say
no. But I like I recall that we discussed it. I recall that we nailed it down. I have forgotten it. So
Okay.
yeah.
So I just want to kind of showcase for those that might have not seen the
Mhm.
first interview, the cover obviously is going to be new,
Yeah.
and more pages. It starts in Violet City,
Hmm.
and I love this spaceship illustration there. Just love it. It just has
Yeah.
that kind of like epic feel to it.
The Engine Town.
And then just to go through here, and obviously if people are being introduced to you for the first time and introduced to Ultraviolet Grasslands and your style of art, very heavily inspired by Mobius from heavy metal
Mhm.
fame and amongst other things. And and we talked extensively about your background in art and how long you've been doing this. And I've often said, like, you are like the true, I don't even know if it's a triple threat or a quadruple threat, but you do like the writing, the illustration, the layout, and
Yeah.
just like you do it all, and pretty rare in our little world. So just some like really cool, evocative art, just for inspiration of like what
Mhm.
the grasslands look. And then I mentioned to you before we started recording, I love these cut illustrations just
Mhm.
to see the world. And these are the types of things that I get lost in. It's like you go through all the little nooks and crannies. And you said, and I'll hold you to this, you're going to do more of these.
Yeah, yeah. I am going to try to do more of them. It's a style I really quite enjoy, but one thing I constantly struggle with is figuring out a workflow that works. And I really like working with pen and ink on paper. Like all of these maps and cutaways that you've shown, all of these are initially drawn by hand. And it's just very fun and relaxing. And I cannot get the same feel and the same vibe when I am working digitally, like coloring digitally. This is great, adding a little bit of detail, a little bit of texture. But for the inking, it just doesn't work for me. So I'm trying to figure out a workflow where I get to do more work in ink, and hopefully, hopefully that'll work out.
And speaking of your workflow, what is it like? I mean, I think in our first interview you mentioned that it took about 2 years to get UVG one
Yeah.
done. And then since then, like, are you doing this on a daily basis? Like, how many hours do you put in a day? Like, are you able to stay fresh, or do you have to take breaks from it from time to
Oh,
time?
of course, of course. I mean, like again, I haven't been a full-time artist my whole life, or creator, or anything, or writer. I am doing this now full-time, like the last few years. So I generally work every day, but in terms of how many useful hours I have per day, it is pretty limited. There's very diminishing returns. So if I were to try to, and I struggle with this because I have the mindset coming from, advertising and then a more corporate background. So there was this idea, well, if I'm not putting in 8 hours a day, am I even working? And is this even relevant? And realistically, I get a lot of my best writing done very early in the morning when the whole house is asleep. so so if I have a good day, I wake up at like 5:30 and start writing, and then I wrap up around 7:30, 8 o'clock. Take the dog for a walk, take the wife to work, and then I do some drawing and writing sort of until lunchtime. And again, if it's a very good day, then I'll get some more writing or drawing done in the evening. But usually, yeah, there has to be quite a long break in between. Like the brain gets wrung out, and yeah. After COVID, it got wrung out faster for quite a while as well. That was this one.
And I think, if you don't mind saying, your household's going to even get a little bit busier in the
Yeah, yeah,
upcoming
yeah,
time.
yeah. Coming soon. Coming soon. It's going to be about 2.5 months if everything goes according to schedule.
Cool. Well, that's really good news, and I'm really happy for you and your family to experience that, and it's going to be a good time. And good timing as far as like UVG coming out right before all that, and UVG 2, I should say.
Yeah,
And,
hopefully.
and what the partnership with Exalted Funeral, I know, like, obviously a lot of people really appreciate Exalted Funeral and their space of sharing indie game developers. Can you just talk about like what they do for you and the community, and how supportive they are?
Well, for me personally, it's really vital because they take care of the production and most of the marketing, and they take care of the sales, and they take care of the shipping, and they take care of all this physical stuff. Like you said, I'm doing a lot of stuff by myself: the writing, the art, the layout, the design, the game design. And at a certain point, my ability to master additional steps in the process is completely nil. So they're invaluable for this, and they've been growing. There have been struggles figuring out how to do the timing on the crowdfunding, because crowdfunding for any kind of indie game writing art nowadays is a very, very important marketing tool as well, because it's how you get your name out there, how you become visible. And so there's timing and all this, there's figuring it out. It's very valuable. They usually also, with the artists they work with and the writers they work with, they have a very fair approach, and they partner with them. So essentially, it's one of the best business partnerships I've had. There are, like I've said, obviously struggles. So one of the things that has been a struggle is getting international shipping up and running in an effective way. But this is sort of a universal struggle. Everybody faces that challenge. You have from Lamentations struggle with shipping books out of Finland. So I remember Raji posting when the postal rates out of Finland went up. That was quite difficult for him. Then when we had COVID, when suddenly the ships weren't moving, at one point we had so Exalted Funeral had a whole stock of books that couldn't get to their warehouses because I think it was the snowpocalypse or something like that hit the northeastern U.S. And it's this thing where, like as a writer, as a creator, or when you play a game, it just feels like these books, they should just show up. We're used to it. Like Amazon is huge and takes care of a lot of this behind the scenes, or when you go to a local bookshop, it's just there. But when you're when you see the sausage getting made, yeah, I have enough on my side with with the seasoning.
It is complicated. I mean, there's a ton of free resources or advice that are out there from a lot of creative people that are in the space, and everybody's trying to figure out the same solution. And there's no clear cut solution, is what I'd say. It's very complicated.
Yeah, and it also depends on the individual people or group, what their skills are, how good they are at project management, how good they are at keeping things moving along, coordinating different processes. And in that sense, working with Exalted Funeral is very complimentary for me, because that part, project management, let's be honest, I'm not the best at it.
Yeah. And what's next for you now? It's like UVG 2 is going to be out. Like I said, I'm sure it's going to be a big hit. You've got the other zines. When are those going to be available?
Well,
I think they're on drive-through already, right?
There's one zine. So Eternal Return Key is the zine. Yeah. So that one is it's already available. It's available on drive-through and on itch, and on the syntheticdreammachine.com is the whole text of it is available for free. So an art-free version of it is available for free. The version which has art, the art is actually a graphic novel. So my first complete graphic novel. Again, I did not expect how much effort this would be. Like, it took me so much work. But the one with the art combines a story that goes through it from beginning to end. The rules, you read the manga style, so you read them from the back to the front. And the character generation, again, goes from the front to the middle, and the character sheet is in the middle. So it's unusual. That one's available. It's going to be available in print by Exalted Funeral as well. We were hoping to time it that it would become available at the exact same time as the UVG2, but wow, I was slow. I was too slow, but it'll be available in a little while, so it should be pretty soon. It's 32 pages, so this is going to just be staple bound. Then I'm working on an adventure module, which is a heist. It's called Silver Ship Wizard, and yeah, it's sort of science fantasy heist set in in the world of the Ultraviolet Grasslands. But like I said, where the map teases new locations, this is set in one of those new locations. So it sort of ties into that.
Yeah.
And then the other big thing that I'm working on now is this book titled Our Golden Age, or there's also going to be some other title or subtitle. This is going to get nailed down. But it's essentially about the Rainbow Lands themselves. So it's this core of civilization where the travelers go from in the Ultraviolet Grasslands, and here it visits it. And it provides more character options. It takes the rules that are in Eternal Return Key, the Synthetic Dream Machine. Yeah, it elaborates them just a little bit. It adds some more guidance for the referee, structuring, but very loose guidance, and mostly it's about tables and modular mechanics for how to build locations and how to play in different areas. So one of the parts that I've gotten nailed down now is in the Ultraviolet Grasslands. At places it mentions something called the noosphere. So this is essentially the sphere of thought that overlays the world, and it's not spelled out exactly where it comes from or how. And I'm not going to spell it out now, but I provide mechanics for this kind of travel. And as for people who are more familiar with D&D, this would be like having simple rules for astral or ethereal travel, where the character's spirit travels into a dimension as a spirit, or like projects as a dream. So there's like a few tables you can use because time flows differently. So it sort of simulates this like it flows irregularly, and travel is irregular. So in sort of this, let's say, the noosphere, the dream realm, when a character tries to travel from point A to point B, you roll randomly how long it takes. So it might be instant, it might take a while. When they come out of the dream, depending on how skilled they are, it might turn out that they've messed up and they thought they'd spend an hour in the dream. They come out, a year has passed and moss has grown over them. But again, if they're skilled, this shouldn't happen. So this is like a module of rules for going into this realm, and then some tables for generating different parts of this mental realm. Another part that's in there is so the UVG mentions gods in the very abstract. Here, I give some of the local gods a little bit more concretely, still abstract, and then I add some mechanics for like how prayer works, how sacrifice works, where you then have like a little table. It's a little bit similar to like a reaction roll or a saving throw, and like, oh, you're praying, you're hoping something's gonna happen. Okay, sometimes it does.
with your origin story of like how Ultraviolet Grasslands even came to be in the first place, with your gaming group and the Rainbow Lands and that kind of stuff, looking back upon that, can you even believe that it's grown into what it has today?
No, it's astonishing. I mean, it's nice. I can see where it goes from. I can see the seeds, right? But it is astonishing. I feel very, very fortunate that this happened, and that also it has resonated with people, that readers have enjoyed it, that folks online have enjoyed the art. So this is really cool.
Do you I mean, it's obviously still got a lot of depth and breadth that you can explore into. Do you ever kind of get tired and go, you know what, I just want to do something completely different? Or are you absolutely loving what
definitely. No, it does happen. So partly I try to scratch that itch for doing something different by having like these other games, like again, like Witchburner, like Long Winter, like some other ones. So I am tempted to do that, but I feel like I need to finish this one first before I do that. Yeah, but there is definitely often that temptation. Although on the other hand, it's eclectic and broad enough that if I want to, I can take another one and then I can find a way to weave it in. So, it's
It does have that kind of Cloverfield feel to it, where you can like almost take any kind of interesting story,
yeah.
whether it's science fiction,
Yeah.
and weave it in,
because
yeah.
it's broad and wide, and sort of the meta history of it, of the setting, that does provide space for that. And the name of the system now, Synthetic Dream Machine, partly also plays with that, because I hint at it in different places throughout the UVG and everywhere, where there's the sense of like, is this possibly, a simulation, or do some of the people in this world suspect they're a simulation or something like that? And then this also appears in the structure of Eternal Return Key, where the way it's structured is when you're generating the character, it's essentially in the first person. So, the second person is talking to the character, and the character is worried that there is some kind of demon controlling them, like a puppet master, making them do things that are not them. And this character even wonders, like, why is this demon, is their name Player, because they refer to themselves as Player? So is this the demon's name? But the character doesn't know. So it's making with this meta structure.
Cool. Well, I think, as you know, I'm a big fan. I know there's many others out there, and I can't wait to see the hard copy of it. And I think it's going to be a fabulous product, and all the other features and zines that you're adding to the world, I think, are just expanding upon that.
Well, I tried. Thank you.
But Luka, I just want to say, best of luck, for everything moving forward, and hope you can come back and share new adventures and setting updates and everything else that comes along with that.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure, Gary. Thank you. Take care.